A cop pulls over an old lady for speeding on a highway. He asks for her driver's license and registration. When she opens her wallet, he notices a concealed carry permit. He asks, "Ma'am, do you have a weapon in your possession at this time?" She responds, "I'll bet you $100 you can't guess the answer to that question," as she slaps a crisp bill on her dashboard. The cop rubs his chin and thinks for a moment and then says, "Okay, lady, I'll take that bet." He guesses that she has a .38 special in her purse and a .45 in her glove box and a 9mm Glock in the center console and a shotgun in the trunk. "However did you guess that, young man?" the old lady says, grasping her pearls. "You see, ma'am," the cop said, snatching up the $100 bill, "this is Reddit. After I read about you on the third repost, I knew I'd find you soon enough." A blonde got caught in a blizzard. It was snowing heavily and blowing to the point that visibility was almost zero when the little blonde got off work. She made her way to her car and wondered how she was going to make it home. She sat in her car while it warmed up and thought about her situation. She finally remembered her dad's advice that if she got caught in a blizzard, she should wait for a snowplow to come by and follow it. That way she would not get stuck in the snowdrift. This made her feel much better, and sure enough, in a little while, a snowplow went by and she started to follow it. As she followed the snowplow, she was feeling very smug as they continued, and she was not having any problem with the blizzard conditions. After quite some time had passed, she was somewhat surprised when the snowplow stopped and the driver got out and came back to her car and signaled for her to roll down her window. The snowplow driver wanted to know if she was all right, as she had been following him for a long time. She said that she was fine and told him of her dad's advice to follow a snowplow when caught in a blizzard. The driver replied that it was okay with him and she could continue following if she wanted, but he was done with the Walmart parking lot and was going over to the Kmart next. A British man, a French man, and a Spanish man are caught stealing in a foreign country. They are prosecuted, and the judge sentences them all to 100 lashes each. However, he wants to look lenient in the eyes of their respective countries, so he reduces the lashes to 20 and allows them to have 2 requests each before being lashed: a bottle of tequila and a pillow strapped to his back. They let him drink the tequila and strap the pillow to his back and then commence the lashes. After 5 lashes, the pillow breaks, and they keep lashing him. After the 20 lashes, he's bawling, and his back is horribly scarred. They haul him away to be sent back to Spain. The Frenchman is next, and he requests 2 pillows, 1 per request. After 10 lashes, the pillows break, and they continue with the next 10. By the end, he's also horribly scarred and bawling, but not as bad as the Spanish guy. While they are hauling off the French guy, the judge turns to the Brit and says, "Well, it's your turn now. What do you request?" The British man responds, "First, I want the original punishment of 100 lashes. I don't believe I should get off easy." The judge yells, "You're crazy. Why would you do that?" The Brit responds, "Because my next request is to have the Frenchman strapped to my back." An Englishman, an Irishman, and an American are stranded on an island until they find a genie. The genie explains to them that usually he'd give them 3 wishes, but because there are 3 people and they all found him equally, everyone gets 1 wish. First, the Englishman makes his wish. "Well, I've been stranded on this island for 2 years now, so I wish to go back home to my family in England." The genie grants his wish and the Englishman disappears with a poof. Now it's time for the American to make his wish. "Well, I've been stranded on this island for 2 years as well, so I wish to go back home to my family in America." And the genie grants his wish and the American disappears with a poof. Next, the Irishman makes his wish. "Well, I'm really lonely on this island, so I wish my 2 buddies were back here with me." Kevin had just gotten a new car and was out for a drive when he accidentally cut off a truck driver. Truck driver motioned for Kevin to pull over. When Kevin did, the driver got out of his truck and pulled a piece of chalk from his pocket. He drew a circle on the side of the road and gruffly commanded to Kevin, "Stand in that circle and don't move." He then went to Kevin's car and cut up its leather seats. When he turned around, Kevin had a slight grin on his face, so the driver said, "Oh, you think that's funny? Watch this." He gets a bat out of his truck and breaks every window in Kevin's car. When he turns and looks at Kevin, he has a smile on his face. Driver is getting really mad. He gets his knife back out and slices all its tires. Now Kevin is laughing. The truck driver is really starting to lose it. He goes back to his truck and gets a can of petrol, pours it on Kevin's car, and sets it on fire. He turns around and Kevin is laughing so hard he is about to fall down. "What's so funny?" the truck driver asked. Kevin replied, "Every time you weren't looking, I stepped outside the circle." A man wakes up after a night of drinking to see a single red rose on his bedside table. Beside the rose is a glass of water, 2 Advil, and a note from his wife. The note says, "Hi, honey, the pills are for your headache. When you're ready, come down to the kitchen and I'll fix your favorite breakfast. Love you." He also notices that he is still in the clothes he was wearing last night and that they aren't very comfortable. He goes down to the kitchen to find his wife humming happily to herself and dancing around in her apron. Upon seeing her husband, she dances up to him and gives him a loving kiss and says, "Go wait in the dining room. Breakfast will be ready soon." So he goes and waits in the dining room. The man's son is also sitting there. He quietly asks his son, "Hey, do you know what's up with Mom?" The boy looked up and said, "Well, Dad, do you remember coming home drunk last night? You were pretty out of it. You went upstairs and crawled in bed with Mom. Well, you were still in your jeans and shirt, and Mom didn't think that was very comfortable, so she decided to help you get undressed for bed. She couldn't, though, because every time she tugged on your shirt, you would push her away and yell, 'Get off me, lady! I'm married!'" An elderly couple is enjoying a lovely breakfast. The wife sets down her fork and asks her husband, "Bill, would you remarry if I were to die?" Her husband avoided the question. "Now, Margaret, why would you ruin this lovely morning by bringing up such a macabre topic? I won't discuss it." Margaret broached the subject several times over the next few days, but Bill refused to answer. Until one evening. Yes, Margaret, I would remarry. I love you, but if you died, I would remarry." "Well, would you keep the house and live with her here?" "Yes, we would live here. I have too many memories and wouldn't want to leave." "Well, would you keep our bed and sleep with her in it?" "Yes, Margaret, we would sleep in our bed. It's just a bed." Margaret thinks about it for a few minutes, clearly not happy with Bill's answers. "I suppose that I will be dead and it won't matter. Just promise me one thing, Bill, don't let her use my golf clubs." "Of course not, Margaret. She's left-handed." A priest, a doctor, and an engineer were waiting one morning for a particularly slow group of golfers. The engineer, quite upset, said, "What about them? We've had to wait here for 15 minutes. The doctor agreed. "I don't know, but I've never seen such incompetence." The priest said, "Hey, here comes the groundskeeper. Let's go talk to him. Hey, George, what's going on with that group ahead of us? They're pretty slow, aren't they?" The groundskeeper replied, "Ah, yes, that's the group of blind firemen. They lost their sight last year when they put out the fire in the clubhouse. We always let them play for free." The 3 became very quiet. Then the pastor said, "That's sad. I think I will pray for them tonight." The doctor, "Good idea. I'll check with my buddy, the eye doctor. Maybe he can do something." The engineer, "Why don't the boys play at night?" A priest visits his cousin, who is also a priest. The 2 priests, both in their 40s, sit down to dinner. The visiting priest says, "Cousin, I couldn't help noticing that your housekeeper is quite a young and attractive woman. I take it relations between the 2 of you are not always completely platonic? How dare you? I am a man of the cloth, as are you. I assure you, there is nothing inappropriate going on between us." After the visiting priest leaves, the housekeeper says to the priest, "Father, I don't know how to say this, but our silver gravy ladle is missing, and it's been missing since your cousin's visit. I don't know what to do. I'm sure I didn't misplace it." The priest tells the housekeeper that he'll handle it. He writes to his cousin, "Dear cousin, a matter of some delicacy has arisen. Our silver gravy ladle is missing. Now, I'm not saying you stole it, and I'm not saying you didn't, but the fact is that it's missing. If you have anything to tell me about this, please do so." The answer, "Dear cousin, regarding your letter, I'm not saying you're sleeping with your housekeeper, and I'm not saying you're not. But if you were sleeping in your own bed, you would have found your silver gravy ladle." One rainy afternoon, a nervous-looking pig walked into a doctor's office, clutching his hat between his hooves. The doctor, a bit surprised, but keeping his professionalism, said, Well, this is a first. How can I help you today? The pig sighed deeply, his little eyes filled with worry. Doc, I've been having these horrible nightmares and I can't sleep at all. It's driving me mad. I was hoping you could prescribe me something. Maybe sleeping pills. The doctor leaned forward, pen in hand. Nightmares, you say? Can you describe them for me? The pig shuddered. They're all the same over and over. It starts with a man luring me with food. Then he kills me, cuts me into pieces and rubs salt all over my flesh. The room went silent for a beat. The doctor set down his pen, gave the pig a sympathetic smile, and said, "Well, I wouldn't worry too much about it." The pig's ears perked up. "You mean I'm going to be okay?" The doctor chuckled softly. "Oh, you'll be cured soon enough." A taxidermist and his apprentice are working late into the night on a big project, a full-size lion for a natural history museum. The lion had been killed in a fight with another lion, and the taxidermist was carefully restoring it for display. He had skillfully blended in hide from another big cat to cover the more severe wounds, making the lion look healthy and whole. The taxidermist is called away for an urgent phone call and instructs his apprentice to check over the facial features and ensure the fake eyes look perfect before they finish. The apprentice, excited by the responsibility, carefully inspects everything, making sure it's all in order. But then, disaster strikes. The apprentice accidentally gouges a large mark into the lion's upper face. Panicked, he worries that he'll be fired. After a few minutes of frantic thinking, he remembers how his boss had patched up the lion's other wounds. He quickly and carefully works to fix the damage, and when he's finished, he steps back and admires his handiwork. The taxidermist returns, takes one look at the face, and sighs deeply. The apprentice anxiously asks, "What's wrong?" The taxidermist shakes his head and says, "Don't you know by now? You can't hide your lion eyes." When Bill and Hillary first got married, Bill said, "Honey, I'm putting a box under the bed. Promise me one thing. You must never look inside." For 30 years, Hillary honored that promise. But on the afternoon of their 30th anniversary, curiosity got the better of her. She lifted the lid and peeked inside. Inside were 3 empty beer cans and $81,874.25 in cash. She quietly closed the box and put it back. That evening, over their anniversary dinner, she couldn't hold it in any longer. "Bill," she confessed, "I broke my promise. I looked in the box." Bill paused, then said, "Well, I suppose after 30 years you deserve the truth. Every time I was unfaithful, I put an empty beer can in that box to remind myself not to do it again." Hillary sat in stunned silence, then sighed. 3 cans. Okay, I'm disappointed. But over 30 years? I suppose I can forgive that. They held hands, reconciled, and the evening moved on. But as they sipped dessert wine, she leaned in and asked, "And the money? What's with all the cash?" Bill smiled sheepishly. "Oh, that? Every time the box filled up with cans, I took them to the recycling center." It was early December, and a posh hotel was hosting a large chess convention. The entire ballroom had been rented out, and the first day had gone smoothly. The quarter, semi, and ultimate final rounds were all that remained. As the convention broke for a break, the attendees filed out into the hotel foyer, allowing the staff to clear away the chess tables and set up for the evening's banquet. The round of 16 had been particularly thrilling, with many dramatic endgames, and the energy among the players was electric. The 8 quarterfinalists boasted loudly about their victories, and soon the previously quiet ballroom turned into a buzzing hub of excitement, much to the dismay of the other hotel guests. Complaints trickled in until the hotel manager finally emerged, asking to speak with the president of the convention. "Hello there. What seems to be the problem?" the president asked. "I'm afraid I'll have to ask you to quiet down," the manager replied. "You're disturbing the other guests. You and your attendees need to either quiet down or leave until the banquet is ready." "Why?" the president asked, perplexed. "Because," the manager said, "I can't stand having chestnuts boasting in a foyer." One morning, a man was strolling down the street when his stomach gave a loud growl. He was starving. As he glanced around for a place to eat, his eyes landed on a restaurant with a bold sign in the window. "Try our exotic breakfast now." Curious, he stepped inside, took a seat, and was soon greeted by a cheerful waitress. "Good morning, sir. What can I get for you?" she asked. The man pointed to the sign. "That exotic breakfast! What is it exactly?" The waitress smiled proudly. "Today's special is baked tongue of chicken." The man's face twisted in horror. "Baked tongue of chicken? Have you any idea how disgusting that is? Why on earth would I eat something that came out of a chicken's mouth? Ugh!" He shuddered, visibly revolted. The waitress, momentarily taken aback, kept her composure. "I see. No problem, sir. What would you prefer instead?" The man huffed, shaking his head. "Just bring me some scrambled eggs." The young couple took their son to the doctor. With some hesitation, they explained that although their little angel appeared to be in good health, they were concerned about his rather small penis. After examining the son, the doctor confidently declared, "Just feed him pancakes. That should solve the problem." The next morning, when the boy arrived at breakfast, there was a large stack of warm pancakes in the middle of the table. "Gee, Mom," he exclaimed. "For me?" "Just take 2, his mother replied. "The rest are for your father." 3 weddings were occurring at the same hotel one weekend. After the ceremonies and wedding meals, all 3 grooms happened to be at the bar at the same time, and they got talking about how they were looking forward to their wedding nights. The first groom said, "Hey, we should let each other know how we got on. How about at breakfast, the number of pieces of toast we order is the number of times we, consummated our marriages." The other 2 grooms agreed, and they went on their way, partying until the small hours, whereupon they took their respective brides to their respective rooms for their respective wedding nights. The next morning at breakfast, they all gave each other little smiles until the waiter asked the first groom how many pieces of toast he would like. "Just 3 pieces of toast for me," he announced, and the other 2 grooms gave him appreciative nods. The second groom, when asked by the waiter, said in a slightly louder voice, "I shall have 5, yes 5 pieces of toast, please." And with a big grin, he looked around and saw the other 2 grooms winking and raising their glasses of orange juice in his direction. Finally, the waiter approached the third groom and asked him how many pieces of toast he would like. The man answered, "I will have 7 pieces of toast, please, and can you make 2 of them brown?" A country doctor was called out late one night to a remote farmhouse deep in the boondocks to deliver a baby. It was so far out that there wasn't even electricity, just the glow of lanterns to light the way. When the doctor arrived, he found the expectant mother already in labor, but there was no one else around, just her and her wide-eyed 5-year-old son. The doctor quickly set up his supplies and turned to the boy. "All right, young man, I need your help. Hold this lantern high so I can see what I'm doing." The little boy nodded, clutching the lantern with both hands, his eyes fixed on the scene unfolding before him. The mother pushed, the doctor worked skillfully, and after a short while he gently pulled the newborn into the world. Holding the baby up by the feet, he gave the little one a firm pat on the bottom, prompting a healthy wail. Wiping his brow, the doctor smiled and turned to the boy. "Well, what do you think of your new baby brother?" The boy frowned, squinting at the crying infant. After a moment, he said, "Hit him again." The doctor blinked, surprised. "Why's that?" The boy crossed his arms. "Because he shouldn't have crawled up there in the first place." There were 2 buddies, one with a Doberman pinscher and the other with a Chihuahua. The guy with the Doberman pinscher says to his friend, "Let's go over to that restaurant and get something to eat." The guy with the Chihuahua says, "We can't go in there. We've got dogs with us." The buddy with the Doberman pinscher says, "Just follow my lead." They walk over to the restaurant. The guy with the Doberman pinscher puts on a pair of dark glasses, and he starts to walk in. The bouncer at the door says, "Sorry, Mac, no pets allowed." The man with the Doberman pinscher says, "You don't understand. This is my seeing eye dog." The bouncer says, "A Doberman pinscher?" He answers, "Yes, they're using them now. They're very good and protect me from robbers, too." The man at the door says, "Come on in." The buddy with the Chihuahua figures, "What the heck?" so he puts on a pair of dark glasses and starts to walk in. Once again, the bouncer says, "Sorry, pal, no pets allowed." The guy with the chihuahua says, "You don't understand, this is my seeing eye dog." The bouncer at the door says, "A chihuahua?" The man with the chihuahua says, "A chihuahua? Oh, they gave me a chihuahua?" A travel agent was wrapping up a successful week at his downtown office when he noticed an elderly couple standing outside, gazing longingly at the posters in his shop window. Exotic beaches, luxury cruises, and glamorous cities, all just out of reach for many, especially those on a tight pension. The sight tugged at his heart. Feeling unusually generous, he stepped outside and called to them, "Excuse me, would you both come in for a moment?" The couple hesitated but eventually shuffled inside, looking around nervously. "I know traveling the world isn't easy on a pension," the agent began, "but I want to do something special. I'm sending you both on an all-expenses-paid trip to a 5-star resort. Flights, hotel, everything on me, no strings attached." Their jaws dropped in disbelief. "Are you serious?" the old man stammered. "Absolutely," the agent smiled. "You deserve it." He called in his secretary to arrange first-class tickets and book a luxurious hotel suite for two. The couple left the office that day, beaming with excitement, thanking the agent over and over. A month passed, and one morning, the little old lady returned to the travel agency, her face glowing with joy. The agent grinned as she walked in. "Welcome back! So how was your holiday?" "Oh, it was wonderful," she said, her eyes twinkling. "The flight was exciting, the resort was absolutely gorgeous, and the room, oh, it was so luxurious." "I'm so glad to hear that," the agent replied, feeling proud. "I wanted it to be special for you both." The old lady hesitated, then leaned in and whispered, "I just have one question. Of course, anything." She looked around, a little embarrassed, then asked, "Who was that old guy I had to share the room with?" A young woman had a serious problem. It took her forever to go pee. Sometimes she'd sit on the toilet for minutes, struggling to squeeze out even a drop. It made her incredibly self-conscious, to the point where she was afraid to date, even though she was quite attractive. Fed up, she went to the doctor, who said the issue wasn't physical. "I've heard hypnosis can help with these kinds of things," the doctor suggested. So she went to a hypnotist. He assured her, "No problem. We can fix this. All we need is a command word that will signal your body to act. Make sure it's a word people don't use in everyday conversation, or it could cause confusion." After some thought, the young woman decided on the word urinate. She figured the only time anyone would say it was in medical settings. The hypnotist did his magic. Later, eager to test it, the woman runs to the bathroom and nervously whispers urinate. To her delight, it worked right away. Excited, she sets up a date with a guy she's had her eye on. They meet at a fancy restaurant, enjoying dinner and drinks. After a couple of drinks, they're both feeling good. Wanting to know what he really thinks of her, the woman asks, "Be honest, what do you think of me?" He smiles and says, "I think you're smart, funny, and I love your laugh." She leans in closer, grinning. "You haven't said anything about my appearance." He shrugs and replies, "Well, you're very pretty. Definitely not a supermodel, but that's a good thing. On a scale from 1 to 10, I'd give you an 8. She grins, feeling flattered, but then under her breath whispers, "Urinate." Immediately, the man jumps up, eyes wide. "What the hell?" Confused, she asks, "What's wrong?" He stammers, "Well, I wasn't expecting you to go that fast." A farmer had an idea to make some extra money during the off-season. He owned a large property with a big white fence that stretched end to end and along an old country road that saw a few cars. He decided to set up a Christmas light display. It took a while to gather all the lights, but after a lot of hard work and countless extension cords, he was ready. When the sun set, the first car that drove down the road saw a sight like no other. The entire fence was covered in dazzling lights, fence posts, crossbeams, all of it glowing with a mesmerizing display. The driver was so impressed, he called his friends and family, and within hours the traffic was backed up for miles. At the end of the display, the farmer had his farmhands waiting with donation buckets, and they brought in hundreds of dollars that night. The display continued for weeks, getting more and more popular. Even with the high electricity bills, the farmer turned a tidy profit. As the years went on, the light displays became more elaborate, synchronized to music, twinkling in time with passing cars featuring LEDs, lasers, inflatable reindeer, and glowing manger scenes. But over time, the farmer noticed fewer and fewer cars showing up. Where there once were lines of visitors, now there were just a handful each night. By the end of the season, attendance was down to a tenth of what it used to be. As November rolled around again, the farmer went to the feed store and overheard two locals talking. "Yeah, it used to be amazing, but now it just ain't the same. I don't know, it's just not fresh anymore." "I know. Everyone's got Christmas lights now. He needs to do something new, something original." The farmer was furious. He'd spent hundreds of hours creating these intricate displays, and now people were treating them like stale hay. "Fine," he muttered to himself. "I'll show them." He rushed back to his farm, tore down every light, ripped out the inflatable Santa, and knocked over the manger scene. Then he painstakingly strung the exact same red and green lights on every square foot of his fence. On the first night of his new display, the visitors were shocked. Their phones lit up as they told their friends and neighbors. Soon the line of cars stretched for miles, longer than it had ever been during the glory days of his displays. The farmer stood there, shaking his head, while his farmhands looked on in disbelief at the sea of cars. "I don't believe it," the lead farmhand exclaimed. "How could this be so popular?" The farmer smiled wryly. "It's simple. Everybody says they want something new, but what really gets them going is the same old thing, over and over again." An elderly couple was enjoying a quiet dinner together when the husband reached across the table, took his wife's hand, and said gently, "Martha, in a few weeks, we'll celebrate our 50th wedding anniversary, and there's something I've always wondered. In all these years, have you ever been unfaithful to me?" Martha sighed and said, "Well, Henry, I have to be honest. Yes, I've been unfaithful 3 times over the past 50 years. Henry looked stunned, but composed himself. 3 times? After all we've shared? She nodded. But each time was for a good reason. Still shaken, Henry asked, "All right. What were those reasons?" Martha said, "The first time was right after we got married. We were about to lose the house. You lost your job. We couldn't pay the mortgage, and the bank was going to foreclose. So, I went to visit the banker. The next day he called and said the loan had been extended." Henry paused, then nodded slowly. I remember that. You saved our home. Okay, I can understand that. The second time, Martha continued, was when you had that heart attack. We couldn't afford the surgery, and the doctor said there was no way around the cost. So, I went to speak with him personally. The next morning, he told us the surgery would be done free of charge. Henry teared up. "You saved my life, Martha? That's love. I forgive you." Then he looked her in the eyes and asked quietly, "And the third time?" Martha leaned in and said, "Do you remember when you ran for president of your golf club, and you were 53 votes short?" One afternoon, Tom took his 8-year-old son, Jake, to the drugstore to pick up a few essentials. As they strolled down the aisles, Jake suddenly stopped in front of a display and pointed. "Dad, what are these?" he asked, his eyes scanning the colorful boxes. Tom glanced over and realized they were standing right in front of the condom section. Clearing his throat, he decided to answer honestly. "Well, son, those are called condoms. Men use them to have safe intercourse." Jake nodded thoughtfully. "Oh, yeah, we talked about that in health class." He reached for a small pack and held it up. "Why are there 3 in this one?" "Ah," Tom said with a chuckle. "Those are for high school boys. 1 for Friday, 1 for Saturday, and 1 for Sunday." Jake's eyes widened. "Whoa, cool." He then picked up a 6-pack. "What about these?" "Those are for college men," Tom explained. 2 for Friday, 2 for Saturday, and 2 for Sunday. Jake let out a low whistle. Wow, college must be awesome. Then he spotted a 12-pack and held it up. And these? Who are these for? Tom sighed, shaking his head. Those, son, are for married men. One for January, one for February, one for March. As realization dawned on Jake's face, an elderly man passing by burst into laughter.